So let's be honest, after that emotional devastation and bureaucratic spellcasting nightmare of No Way Home, I'm sure half of us expected Marvel to give Peter either a break or just ruin his entire life. And just to let everybody know, they went with option B. But somehow that option, in my opinion, I think it made for one of the most compelling character studies that I've seen in the MCU in years. Spider-Man Brand New Day is here. We're not going to recap the entire film, but we are going to talk about all the big things that happened, especially the ending, the post-credit scene, and who is this mystery character that Sadie Sink is playing. We already know the answer to that, and wait no further, because if you're watching this now, spoiler warnings, because I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that she played Jean Grey. But no big secret. We all knew this for months, so they should have just let the cat out of the bag a long time ago. It wouldn't have ruined anything about this film. So let's go ahead and get into this film, because in my opinion, what makes Spider-Man Brand New Day work is that it refuses to just be another CGI punch fest. I love that the direction of this film leaned into lonely Peter Parker. And the reason that he is lonely is because, 4 or 5 years ago, Doctor Strange cast a spell that everybody could forget him. And not even his closest friends or other superhero counterparts remember who Peter Parker is. People do, however, remember that there is a Spider-Man. They just don't know who's under their mask. And we see in this film that Peter has thrown himself basically into work as Spider-Man, all to the point where he practically doesn't take a break. He just overdoes it. He's in superhero mode, and this is all he could do. And it's all basically in the psychology of his mind. I guess he feels if he throws himself into one direction, then he can somewhat ignore the other, which is his friends. And I'm sure we can all understand that, because I think that's one of the things that I liked about this movie the most, because it's extremely relatable. Because we all know what it's like to throw ourselves into work and work too hard, or go against the saying of work hard, play hard. A lot of us work hard, but don't play hard enough. And that's Peter Parker in this situation. Now, performance-wise, Tom Holland is operating at his absolute best. This was top tier acting. I personally don't think the genre matters when it comes to acting. Some people do, some people don't. But if you watch this movie and you see the performance that Tom Holland gave, and you come away with anything other than a great performance, then let's talk about it in the comments. And then that chemistry between Spider-Man and Frank Castle. John Bernthal yet again does his thing as the Punisher. The dynamic between the two was absolute gold, cinematic gold, but gold in general. Matter of fact, let's just make it platinum, because this was a really fun time watching their dynamic between each other. And you could tell that they're really good friends in real life, because the dynamic shows on screen. And I love the idea of pairing the Tom Holland Spider-Man don't kill anyone with the Punisher, who is going to wreck everything if you let him. And I guess we see some of his craziness when we see his booby-trapped new home that he has when Spider-Man and Mary Jane go there and nearly get killed by all of the Punisher's booby traps that he has set in place. I'm sure he sleeps very, very well knowing that nobody can infiltrate his space. And then the one thing that surprised me, that even under the PG-13 label, that Frank Castle still shined. And I was worried about that, because I thought he was going to be real watered down, thought he was going to get webbed over the mouth every time he tried to cuss. But Frank cussed a lot in this movie. He just didn't use the F-bomb. And that's fine, because I think removing the F-bomb obviously keeps us a PG-13 movie, but I don't think it really matters, because it didn't take away from the personality of who Frank Castle is. He said shit a lot. He said a lot of cuss words a lot. He just didn't say F. So I was fine with all of that. I enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, he's still blasting that Savage Hulk with a gun, and he's trying to blow up a tank. So it's the same classic Frank Castle, just without the F-bombs. Now, the pacing, in my opinion, keeps you constantly guessing. I actually found myself a couple of times on the edge of my seat, and I really didn't expect that from a superhero movie, or just this type of movie in general. I expect to sit back and watch a great, relaxing action movie and just enjoy a good time, because I did expect this movie to be good. But I think the thing that got me the most was that there wasn't just this one singular villain. We have Jean Grey at times, who acts as an antagonist for part of this film. I actually think Spider-Man acts as his own antagonist at parts in this film. And then obviously the DODC and Savage Hulk are also other villains in this movie. I think this movie was littered with villains, even outside of the opening montage, because like I said, Jean Grey, Spider-Man to himself and fighting this thing that he's becoming. And he's just changing in a different way. And most of it's psychological. And that's really what controls a lot of things that are happening to him. But Savage Hulk as well. And obviously the DODC, who we all kind of knew were going to be this mutant hunting organization. So there's no surprise that they played some role as an antagonist, but they didn't initially come off in the movie as they were going to be the antagonist, even though they did a lot of antagonistic things. And we all knew that by the time the film ended, that they were probably going to be the antagonist, or this new guy, Bill Metzer, that he's going to be the big antagonist, because we all know from the comics that he hates mutants. So I expect to see him come back much later on, probably in the X-Men movie. I doubt we see him again before then. But before we put this movie under a microscope, I want to hear from you. So right now, jump down in the comments and drop your personal score for Spider-Man Brand New Day, 1 through 10. Did this movie hit the mark for you, or did you walk away wanting a little bit more? And I can understand either way, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments about your personal feeling about this film. Now let's look at some of the details and the director clues that were left for us to find, and what you may have missed on your first watch. The first thing I'll touch on is this Vmax. We saw in the film that Jean Grey and Peter Parker at some point were looking for Vmax. And we learned later that this is all connected to Jean Grey's sister, Sarah, and she's a comic book character as well. But Sarah was captured by the DODC at one point in this film. It was a flashback scene, and she helped Jean escape by allowing herself to be captured, and she jumped inside of Jean's mind to basically get her away from the scene. So going to the VMAX, I was curious about what this was, because I thought it may be some type of drug or some type of anti-mutant thing. I didn't know what it was because it's VMAX. It sounded very, very serious. But we learned that this is the last thing that Sarah sees before she ultimately passes, because as Sadie Sink is in this box room getting experimented on, she has her head tilted back and she sees VMAX. But what it really stands for is Ventmax. And this basically confirms to her character that, damn, my sister is dead and these people killed my sister. And the last thing that my sister saw was this vent, because she died with her head back. And it didn't really mention how the sister Sarah managed to contact Jean from this distance. Maybe when they're dying, they have some type of big energy surge and they can reach different things or people. Or maybe it's the Phoenix Force and it has something to do with that, because Sarah does come back in some type of way that I looked up in the Phoenix Force, and I'm not sure if they're even going that way, so no need to bring it up here. And then let's talk about Peter's Arachnid evolution into basically the same type of Spider-Man that Peter 2 was. And for those who don't know, that's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is Peter 3. And the big things that we see here, that he gets super strength, he gets natural webbing finally, and I'm glad they made that change, because natural webbing is a little bit better for me, in my opinion, for a Spider-Man. And I don't think this is just some cool callback to just mention that their other Spider-Man were seen at some point by this Spider-Man. I actually think this was a plot upgrade, and we see it come back later when the DODC and the Hand use these shocker-based weapons to make Peter's webs dissolve. And Jean pointed out as much that, hey, they even have weapons against you too. But the natural webbing didn't dissolve under the guns and whatever they had to make the other webs dissolve. So him naturally evolving into more of an arachnid actually helped him in this case, because if it wasn't for that, he probably would have got caught. Now off to one of the side characters for a second, because who do you guys think that mysterious blonde is? I have my thoughts, and I'm going to go ahead and say I think it may be Gwen Stacy, just in foreshadowing. They showed her twice in the film, and I doubt they showed her 2 times for no reason. I do think she's going to come back later and maybe even be Peter's future love interest, since we know that Peter and MJ are basically done now and probably going to just move forward as friends, because MJ told him in this film that, you know what, the person that used to love you, you erased. And this MJ doesn't love you. Not her exact words, but that's basically what she was getting at, setting Peter free from their love bond. And now maybe Peter has other options in his love life. But I personally think this is Gwen Stacy. And I really hope it is, because Tom Holland mentioned that, you know, as he gets older, and he's not that old, he's just 30. But as he goes on into the Spider-Man future, he wants to be the Spider-Man that kind of mentors the Spider people that come after him. And he mentioned Miles, and he also mentioned Spider-Gwen. So maybe this is our little introduction into Gwen Stacy. We'll see what happens from there. But now let's go ahead and get to the part that we all care about, and that is the climax, the twist, the ending, and the post-credits. Because the climax of this film goes off the rails in the best way possible. We see Jean unleash Savage Hulk, a character that we haven't seen in years. And if you don't know who Savage Hulk is, because maybe you're not tuned in, or maybe this is your first Spider-Man movie, he is the most unpredictable version of Bruce Banner, the Savage Hulk. You know, because we've seen Smart Hulk. I thought we were going to get a Gray Hulk, but apparently we didn't, unless I missed it. But Savage Hulk is the unpredictable one, the most violent one, the one that can't be easily contained. And how is Peter going to survive this attack by the Savage Hulk? Because he cannot overpower him. All he could really do is just tie him up in a web and kind of hope he gets tired and just stops. But the Hulk doesn't get tired, so that was never going to happen. But he appealed to his kindness. He let him know, hey, I'm your friend. I'm Peter. And it seemed at that moment, at least, that Savage Hulk was the person that Tom Holland was referring to as the only one person that knows exactly who Peter Parker is. But we have to kind of remember at the same time that Savage Hulk isn't a person. He's a character of Bruce Banner. He's just one of his alter egos. Bruce Banner remembering Peter Parker would have been the reveal that, oh, this is the one person that remembers him. But at least we did get a nod to know that Hulk does remember who Peter Parker and Spider-Man are and that they're connected. Even though I don't remember them ever really connecting or doing anything together in any of the other films, but the Hulk knows who Peter Parker is. And then we get this Mind-Scape sequence where Peter lets Jean jump into his brain because she's tried to a few times in the film and she can't, he pushes her out. But this time he lets her in. And he really does this because Jean at the time is freezing parts of New York. And he wants to try to see if this works to let him in and maybe she'll see who he really is and that he's not lying to her about trying to help. And then we see this scene with Aunt May right after she finds out that Peter is Spider-Man. They're sitting on the bed together. And in this situation, Jean takes the place of Speeder. The room turns red. She was basically telling her that we love you. And it's not because you're special that we love you. We love you because you're you. And that honestly pulls Jean back off the ledge. And it puts Peter in a dangerous spot because what we do see is that the Punisher's on another building somewhere and he has a sniper rifle because he said he was going to bring a bigger gun. And he shot that gun and Peter, with his spider senses, obviously felt what was coming, and he grabbed Jean to protect her. He turned around and got shot in the back. But in this moment, she has Bill Metzer in the room as well, and he's tied to a chair in this moment with glass at his face. But after her guards drop and everything happens to Peter, she uses all of her power to basically stabilize him and keep him alive so that he can recover. Now, let's go ahead and unpack that ending twist as well. At the bodega, we see Peter introduces himself to Ned again, basically from scratch, like starting over. Because he did meet him before in the movie as Maynard when he went to his apartment, when he stalked his way to Ned's apartment, well, Ned and MJ's apartment. But after introducing himself and going in for a handshake, they initiate their secret handshake that we've seen plenty of times in the other films, and it triggered Ned's memory. And he says, Peter. And Ned is the person. Ned is the one person who remembers who Peter Parker is or was. And it probably has to do a lot with him having some type of connection to magic, because we saw in the last movie that he can open up a sling ring portal. So he does have some type of connection to magic, but maybe Doctor Strange's spell affected him in a different way. I'm not sure about that. But Ned clearly remembers, or it seems as though Ned remembers who Peter Parker is, but we fade to black anyway, so I guess we'll wait to the next film. Ned and MJ may come back in Secret Wars, but if they don't, we'll see in the next Spider-Man film what became of that situation. And then we have to talk about Jean Grey's bus. Where do you guys think she's headed? Because they keep telling us that there are no X-Men or Charles Xavier or anybody like that in this universe. So she's clearly probably headed up to upstate New York, and something's probably there. Now, is it X-Men? Is it a Charles Xavier? Is it a Magneto? Who knows? But seems as though she's traveling somewhere. More than likely she's traveling definitely out of that local area, but probably going upstate New York. Probably for us, it's more of a nod to the X-Men than her actually going there to see the X-Men. She's probably just getting away and going to go try to start fresh there. But we know she's going to be in Secret Wars, so whether she makes it there or not, we don't know. And now that post-credit scenes, because we cut to Ned's Spider Tracker. And we see on the Spider Tracker that Peter Parker at this current moment, well, Spider-Man at this moment, is in Queens. But then it shifts back and it goes out to space and then it pops up on this little dot area in the middle of space, but it glitches first as well. The first thing that came to my mind when I saw that scene was, honestly, Battle World. I'm thinking that Peter went to Battle World. The glitch was probably when Dr. Doom destroys everything and creates Battle World, and this is where everybody originates. Now, I know this probably could be a nod to Peter 2 or Peter 3, because we've heard the rumors about maybe Avengers Doomsday starting with the destruction of Peter 2's universe, and maybe he dies, him and Wolverine, something like that. But I'm not going to get into a bunch of theories on that, because I personally think it's just Tom Holland Spider-Man getting transported to Battle World. Now, how does he get there? My personal theory is that he's probably going to get taken there on whatever this arc is, because I've heard about this arc that's floating above and saving, I guess, some of the heroes. So that's how I believe Tom Holland's Spider-Man will get to Battle World. Now, could be different, maybe not, maybe so. We'll see what happens. But let me know how you guys think Tom Holland's Spider-Man will get to Battle World, because he will definitely be in Secret Wars. Yes, Spider-Man will return. We saw that on the black screen. They didn't say where. But we would have to be crazy to think that they're going to do 2 Avengers movies and have no Spider-Man. They're not doing that. Whether he comes in Doomsday or not, we'll see. But he'll definitely be in Secret Wars along with Jean Grey. And I heard the Punisher's in it as well. So if there are, it'll be another fun time. So now my verdict, my score, my rating. In my opinion, when the credits rolled on this movie, I sat firm and I still sit firm at a 4.5 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10, however you want to look at it. The movie was damn near perfect in my opinion. I didn't really have any problems with it outside of some of the pacing. And when I say that, I don't mean the movie got stale in any type of way. It just had a couple of little pacing problems for me, and it was really in the beginning. It was just a little bit slow and slower than I expected, especially for a superhero movie, because they kick us off pretty quick. But then they get into this area where they're doing some world building. That for me is not a real detractor because it just adds to the entire movie. So I could easily give this a 5 out of 5, but I'm really just trying to be honest. And I just had a problem with that. Maybe you don't. But I think a 4.5 out of 5 or a 9 out of 10 is a really damn good movie. It's basically a masterpiece with a little bit of problems because there is no perfect film, at least in my opinion. But now I'm going to leave you guys with this highly debatable question on my way out. Does Ned remembering who Peter is ruin that emotional ending for the last film? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I personally don't think it ruins it. I actually think it adds to their dynamic. So that's just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And before we get out of here, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. I really appreciate all of you for coming. And I thank you again for stopping by and talking about Spider-Man with me. And I will see you all in the next video. And thank you again for coming. Goodbye.